Birds of Paradise is such an iconic and timeless design. Birds of Paradise is a 0/1 bird that costs a single green mana and can tap to produce a mana of any color. Now, this might not look like much, but come on, we all know this is a really good card. It's true, maybe Mana Darks don't see much play at the highest power levels, where, waiting a turn is like a death sentence. But they do a lot of work in like mid to high power level games that don't have access to the most disgusting fast mana ever. This is also the most commander staple of commander staples of all time. It probably appears in pretty much almost every green deck that isn't excluding it for diversity or price. At the very least, it's in every multicolor deck that includes green, but even if you're in mono green, this card is still pretty decent. The ability to color fix yourself is incredibly useful, and of course more so in a format like Commander, where it's harder to fix your colors, but it also ramps you. If you cast a Birds of Paradise on turn 1, on turn 2 you have access to 3 mana, assuming you hit both your land drops. That's pretty good. But you all know that Birds of Paradise is pretty good. It's shown up at tournaments, it sees a ton of play in Commander, and is an interesting and proactive card. I don't know how in the weeds I want to get about why ramp and color fixing are good, because I'm pretty sure that's fairly obvious to most people watching. Plus, spoilers, there's a lot of fucking art, so this video might be pretty long. So let's just go over some interesting facts about the card. As many people know, Birds of Paradise was one of the last 15 cards designed for Alpha. And like the last 5 non-land cards designed, it didn't see much playtesting. So, as the story goes, when they got ready to have the cards printed, they learned that there weren't enough cards for the rare sheet and they needed 15 more cards. Now, why they didn't just fill these slots with basic lands is anyone's guess, but they probably felt that might have been a little too much. There are 2 islands on the rare sheet though, so you could open an island as your rare in ABU, and technically it was twice as likely as any other single card, which is endlessly funny to me. Anyway, they came to the conclusion that they needed 15 more cards. So Richard threw together the 10 dual lands, a design that had seen some playtesting, as the 5, I presume ally color, lands were being playtested for some future set. Then they made Island Sanctuary, Stasis, Word of Command, Sedge Troll, and Birds of Paradise to fill out the sheet. Now, I have no idea what the story is on the Sedge Troll art. Maybe Dan Fraser cooked it up quick, or had been working on it, or it had been rejected for some other card, or maybe it was just in his fucking closet, I don't know. But Stasis came from Faye Jones, who was Richard Garfield's aunt, and Word of Command was likely thrown together really quickly by Jesper Meerfers, but the Island Sanctuary and Birds of Paradise art were rejected art from land cards. Mark Poole had originally submitted both of those arts to be on lands. Now, the Birds of Paradise art is debated and even sort of confirmed to be the art for Tropical Island or maybe Volcanic Island, but according to some people that I've heard mention it, Poole himself confirmed that it was submitted as art for a basic land, same as Island Sanctuary. These 2 arts were apparently rejected since they prominently featured animals, which wasn't something that Jesper Meerfers, the art director at the time, wanted on the basic land cards, for what I would say are pretty obvious reasons. Now, I have no idea how true this is, but this is what I've heard, and it's definitely interesting, assuming it is true. And this is neither here nor there, but Volcanic Island also didn't make it into Alpha, for what I believe are art-related issues. And I have no idea what card it was replaced with, but maybe it was replaced by the island. I'm not sure what else would make sense. I don't really have that information. But this is supposed to be a video about Birds of Paradise, not all those other things, so maybe I should talk about Birds of Paradise. It's really cool. I don't think I've ever met someone who doesn't like this design space. It's just pretty universally popular, but also pretty well recognized as being a pretty strong but not necessarily broken card. The old adage, Bolt the Bird, refers to using your early removal to deal with the mana dork because mana acceleration is pretty valuable. one of the earliest examples of tempo wisdom that I know of, and I think that's pretty neat. Now, I guess there is probably a lot more I could say about Birds of Paradise, but this card has been reprinted a shitload, and I have kind of committed to talking about every art of every card I talk about, so for the sake of your time and mine, I'm going to leave the rest of any fun facts about Birds of Paradise or fun stories to you guys in the comments, if you don't mind. So let's pivot to the art now. Now, as we've already discussed, the first art was made by Mark Poole, and I really like it. I think the art is cool as hell, even if it doesn't really depict a bird of paradise. Still, it's magic. I mean, a fungosaur isn't a real thing, so like maybe in Dominaria this is what a bird of paradise looks like, who's to say? Either way, I like the art, but I don't have much else to say about it. I do think it's better as a green creature than it would have been as land art, but that's obviously entirely opinion-based. This art was used for quite a while and still occasionally pops up, but we have a lot of other arts to go through, so I'm gonna try and not ramble about each art like the idiot that I usually am. Well, I'm always that idiot, but usually I ramble. That's what I'm stupidly trying to get across. 7th edition was illustrated by Edward P. Beard Jr. This art is pretty fantastic. I really like the multicolored approach to the bird's feathers, as it makes more sense that this little multicolored bird could make you a red or a blue mana. It's really well done and far more detailed than the last. My heart will always be with the classic art, but this one isn't bad at all. Then, in Ravnica, City of Guilds, we got this art by Marcello Vignali, and I'm fairly certain this art appears on more printings of birds than any other art. And this art is also pretty sweet. It's my least favorite of the arts we've shown, but I do really like it. It's well done and feels about as crazy as actual Birds of Paradise can get. But I don't really have much else to say about it, and we have more arts to go over. It is really well done, just not my favorite. Anyways, the next art was done by Teresa Nelson as a promotional piece for M11, but Marcello's art was the one that was actually used in the actual M11 set, which is kind of interesting. I like this art as well, but it's already getting to the point that it's just another multicolored bird, and they're kind of all blurring together. I like it, and it's kind of cool that it's pretty rare, but the anatomy of the wings feels a bit off in a way that feels a little more impactful with how detailed the art is than it would have with, like, the sloppier art of early Magic. And I say sloppier art with love. I don't mean that as an insult. Oh well. It's way better than I could fucking do, so what the fuck am I talking about, right? Anyway, Birds of Paradise might be the most secret layered card of all time. In this secret layer, the art was done by Odivo Cartagena, and it's really nice. But I don't really have much to say about it. I like that it's a crazy looking bird. That's fun for me. There's so many of these. Anyways, in the next secret layer, Scryfall is labeling this as Secret Layer 1148, and I don't know if that's the number of cards that have been in Secret Layers. I don't know what that means. That's just what Scryfall is telling me. Anyway, this art here was illustrated by Eli, who was 8 at the time, and this is super cute. It's really funny and adorable, and it's not really my thing, but it did get a chuckle out of me. It's an 8-year-old's rendition of this art by Andrea Radek. This art is also pretty sweet, but it's far from my favorite. Like, the art is well done, and the bird is really cool. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at too many birds to have an opinion about birds anymore. This art here was illustrated by Daryl Reich for Dominaria Remastered, and it's also pretty sick. I think the purple is a little too purple for my tastes, but to each their own. To be honest, I'm pretty apathetic with, I guess, just a touch of ambivalence toward most of these arts. But I don't think any of them are bad. I just kind of an old school art guy. We're getting to newer shit that I just don't really care about. They're beautiful, they're just not my thing. Anyway, Birds of Paradise also got printed into Tales of Middle-earth Commander, and this version was illustrated by Ben Wooten. This one is fantastically done, but it kind of looks like Lisa Frank vomited onto this bird. Was it Lisa Frank? That fucking 90s rainbow garbage they marketed to young girls. Does anyone remember that? Know what I'm fucking talking about? Anyway, the details are striking on this art, and I can't really complain about it, but it is my first impression that, like, that art style just vomited all over this bird. Oh my god, there's still 4 more of these. Okay, so this rendition was illustrated by Kimonomichi, and it's a fantastic re-envisioning of the Ravnica Birds of Paradise, which makes sense because it's from Ravnica Remastered. The art is great. It's a bird. Moving on. This bird was illustrated by Stefan Andrade for the Monty Python Secret Lair, and it's been renamed to African Swallow. It's a reference, and the art is well done, and it's pretty hilarious. I love this movie, but I don't really have much else to say about this. Javier Chero illustrated this one for the Bloomburrow Commander product, and the art is well done. It fits the vibe of the set, but I can only look at so many illustrations of birds before I just don't care anymore. Still, this fantastic artist. Very, very, like, insane line work. Anyway, here's a chocobo. Takoto illustrated it. It's for Final Fantasy Commander. I'm gonna be real with you. The last Final Fantasy I played was Final Fantasy 1, like 20 or more years ago. Probably closer to 25 now. And that was already like 20 years too late. So I don't know anything about any of this shit. But the art is well done, if not a little cutesy for my taste. But yeah, Birds of Paradise is obviously a popular card. Just look at how many fucking arts there are of it. They release a new version of this fucking card every time I leave the house. Also, in case it's not clear, I don't mean any shade to anyone who likes Secret Layers or Universes Beyond or anything like that I may not be all that interested in. I don't really care what brings you joy, and it's not my place to shit on it. The exasperation comes exclusively from how many different pieces of bird art that I had to look at for this video. I think the card is cool, and magic art is almost always well done by people that, like, got into painting magic cards because they fucking love the game and want to contribute to it positively. Every art has its own charm, but there still were a lot to go through. Fuck. I can't tell as I'm writing this script if this is going to be, like, fucking long as shit or just a bit longer than usual, but it feels like I've been writing this shit forever. And I make some mistakes while recording, but looking at that time, it's at 17 minutes right now, at least for me. Fuck. This video's gonna be long. Birds of Paradise is a cool fucking card. I love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments. That's really all I have for you today, though. Please like the video if you liked it. It does help. You can subscribe if you give a shit, but either way, I do hope you have a magical day. Thank you for watching.